I am live on my YouTube channel. We're going to talk about the next step in living the good life and having optimal health, wealth, love, and happiness, in embracing Emily's life and living the good life. So I'm super excited. Hi, G. I see you there. Waiting for a few more people to join. Just briefly. This is going to be a really fun topic. We're talking about building forgiveness into the land, and we're going to talk about large sums of gifts from strangers, a $20 billion gift from a stranger. Just to recap, yesterday we talked about opportunity costs and real costs. We talked about the law of 72 and what it looks like to double money and compound interest. Like, we talked about a lot of great things that were all very financial. So now we're going to talk about building forgiveness into the land. And this is about building systems that persist. And a little bit of background behind this comes from my brother-in-law, who did ops management, as well as one of my old mentors, who was the chief operating officer for U.S. Steel, which is the biggest steel company in the United States. I don't know if it is in the world, but I do know it is in the United States. And he did all of the operations, or was in charge of designing the operations behind their factories and facilities. So building forgiveness into the land, operations, building systems that persist. We talked about Six Sigma in the past. But today's more in the sphere of persistence. One of the worst things is creating success and then falling back. We talk about if you're rolling a giant boulder up a hill, when you have negative momentum, it's much harder to get it to move forward, versus if it's moving just ever so slowly forward. It doesn't take as much effort. So you have to build lives that have a wide margin of safety. So if you're moving quickly up that hill and you slow down, it's not going to be as difficult as negative momentum. So you want to be in an area where there's a wide margin of safety. And this basically ties into everything. When it comes to, hi, Bearded Issues, it's that time again, yes. When it comes to being wealthy, you never get wealthy through saving. And this is a misconception that it's very natural to fall into the old black and white mentality. If you're a natural saver, to just save money and hope that you'll have $1 million, but you're never going to be wealthy by saving. It's actually irresponsible, in my opinion, to just save. So you must invest. But you have to let forgiveness be built into the land. Working in finance, we would diversify people's portfolios and typically have 3 different levels of risk. We would have a risk level that we call our safe investments, which are guaranteed rates of return or as close to guaranteed as possible. And then we would have our aggressive investments, which would typically be stock market investments, individual investment portfolios. We would look at a few other different things. Just your traditional, like, at least you can kind of expect some sort of rate of return, but there's no guarantees there, versus the first place there is guarantees. And then the final place that we would invest money would be in what we call the home run bucket, which would be throwing pitches at the fences and hoping that something would stick. And that type of stuff would look more like real estate or owning your own business. But we had the safety net of the other 2 forms of risk, because at the end of the day, if you only throw your money into that last place, you're going to end up with a lot and nothing at the same time. So you have to have a safety net. Does that make sense? Crypto, whatever you're good at could be that final place. If you're good at crypto, if you're good at day trading, like, that could be that final place. But there's no standard rate of return. And I would not expect any rate of return, but it could absolutely make you very, very successful. Hi, Manny. Good to see you. So you have to build a safety net in place. As an entrepreneur, you shouldn't just have one accountant. You should have multiple people that are experts. Build forgiveness into your health, into business. With your health, you can put on some muscle. So with finances, you cannot save money when you really need it. You have to figure out how to save money when it's easy, not when it's hard. When my dad had our farm growing up, he would dig out ponds, and we actually built ponds so that if the irrigation water that we had that would only last for a couple months in the summertime would be turned off early, which happened frequently in the years of drought, and it didn't last throughout the rest of the summer, and it didn't start raining soon enough in California, he would have access to something where he could water his fields regardless. And that's building forgiveness into the land. People that have stronger immune systems are more likely to age better and not die from disease. Building forgiveness into the land is consistently getting enough sleep and consistently eating enough nutrients and consistently not having tons of stress, consistently drinking enough water. You're going to age a little bit differently than the people that don't do those things. And your immune system will be stronger for it. So if you have a stronger immune system when you're younger, you're going to age a little bit better, and you're going to be less likely to die from disease, such as COVID. When you are in good health, make sure you start reserving and stocking that up. So you can absolutely stock up on health. Howdy, Evan. I see you there. Store up a lot of social stock. So like you can absolutely have a reserve of social relationships and social stock, which basically is like if you have relationships that are really strong and maybe you fall into a time where you don't have the time to really work at those relationships, but they're there. And let's say you need something, you have people that trust you and respect you, and you've built up social stock. So you can give more gifts out. That's how you build social stock, is by generosity. That's the key to networking, is generosity, without keeping score. And that will prepare you for a rainy day, because the rainy day will absolutely come for us all. So double down on people you have companionative love with. Build a big bank account. We talk about how you can't just save alone, but you absolutely need to have an emergency fund. An emergency fund is absolutely crucial. Whenever I look at personal finances for a friend or a family member, I always ask them, okay, well, how many months of savings do you think that you need as an emergency fund? And they say, well, I think if the worst case scenario happened, it'd be good to have 2-3 months worth of savings. Okay. Well, what are your living expenses? Let's multiply that out by 2 or 3 times. What are your living expenses for a month? Multiply it by 2 or 3 times. For some people that have variable income, they need like 6 months or 9 months worth of living expenses and savings to fall back on. And people don't focus on that enough these days. So build a big bank account, strengthen your muscle and your immune system. If you have strong muscles, think about if something drastic happened in this world, in this economy, how important would it be if we had World War III happen to us to already have built up your body physically? And we talk about the six-pack of the mind as well as the six-pack of the body. So build up your immune system, build up your muscles, social ties. You can also store up happiness. I would store up happiness through journals, constantly giving out gratitude. Gratitude is literally the like ingredient for happiness. There's a few books on happiness I think everybody should read if they think that their happiness quotient is not high enough. But people that are gracious, people that are grateful, i.e. typically religious people that are Christians, generally live happier lives simply because they spend more time in prayer. That's like one of the main reasons why they're happier in general. It's because they spend more time being grateful for things. And don't be grateful for things like the sun rising, because that's going to happen no matter what. Be grateful for something that you have direct impact on. The sun rising isn't something to be grateful for because the sun's always going to rise. Be grateful for the food, be grateful for the relationships, the family, something that may not exist in your life. So going out in nature, doing a gratitude journal, just journaling your thoughts, all good ways of building up, storing up happiness. I also just was listening to a Joe Rogan podcast that talked about grounding and a few other different really important things that are health related, like avoiding enriched wheat because of folic acid. And grounding could definitely be a way of storing up some happiness because you're polarizing your iron in your blood with the ground. So it gets to be together. And this guy, he's seen, I think he's tested like tens of thousands of bodies and morgues, and he's seen what makes the biggest impact on health. And he has 5 different things that he thinks are the most impactful. So you can definitely take a look at that if you want to listen to it. Get those push-ups in. Yeah. Stretch, do yoga, definitely do push-ups. Stretching and doing yoga, it's really interesting. If you stretch when you're younger, you're always going to be a little bit more agile and flexible. The only reason why I have the level of flexibility that I have is because when I was 3, 4, 5 years old, I put effort into doing the splits and stretching every single day because it was impressive to my friends and family. And at the time, I didn't know how impactful it would be on my actual health, but it's incredibly healthy and gives me a lot of really, really awesome things. When it comes to children and infants, if I ever have a child, this is going to sound a little interesting, but flexibility is something that you have to start with. And then you slowly become a little bit less flexible, or you work at it and you continue to be as flexible or more flexible. But contortionists, basically anybody can be a contortionist that has normal joints if their parents take them at a very, very young age and bend them, because infants, young children have very flexible bodies. If you just constantly work with that, kind of need it, then you're going to end up with a more flexible body, which is very interesting. So you can store that up. Absolutely. Invest in your body, stretch your forgiveness out. You will have, as Freud says, decaying dissolution of our bodies. It doesn't have to freak us out. We're going to have decaying dissolution of our bodies. And the more forgiveness you build out, the less you have to worry about. One of my friends told me just last night when I was hanging out with them, he said, when we take pleasures and make things easy on us, it takes years off of our life. When we make things easy, meaning eating fast food, taking hot showers instead of cold showers, when we do the easy things, the convenient things, the things that don't require courage and mental strength, we actually age quicker, and it affects our long-term longevity, which I thought was interesting. Louise, you're late. You're almost at the very end of this. That's okay. So my questions for today are, what is an example of not having enough forgiveness in your physical body, and how can you change that? Meaning lose or gain weight, build up muscle, build your immune system up. One of my favorite ways to build up your immune system outside of just getting core nutrients there's a couple things I love. One is taking an obscene amount of vitamin C. There's a little bit of controversy about that, but I actually think that it can really kick your immune system into action. So taking a few thousand milligrams of vitamin C is one of my favorite things to do, but definitely do your own research. And then another one I really love is having a powdered green drink. If I feel like I have sniffles in my nose, drinking a powdered green drink in the morning, it like instantly cures the sniffles. It's really interesting. My nose just stops running and I feel like very, very present. So those are a couple things I think are great for building up your immune system. My next question is, what is an example of wealth that you don't have enough forgiveness built into it? Meaning, is your investment portfolio not diversified enough? Do you not have a safety net, like an emergency fund? Do you not have some safer investments, maybe like a CD or a high yield savings account that are earning safe rates of return? There's a few other things you can look at that are in that realm. Do you not have a middle ground, meaning something that potentially is getting 7 to 11% rate of returns, but no really guarantees? Or is it all in the home run space? And then the next one is just basically for your love life. Do you need to build more relationships and double down on the ones that you already have? And then finally, what is an example of not having enough forgiveness when it comes to your happiness? Do you have forgiveness built into your happiness? So if you have a really hard day, you've already built up the mental strength, meaning the 6-pack of the mind, as well as doing gratitude journals, spending time in nature, so that you don't snap. You certainly wouldn't want that life. So that is today's next step for living the good life. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I haven't had my coffee yet for push-ups. You shouldn't have to be playing catch up. Our cells need resistance. Yeah. You have to build up forgiveness. Store up some level of forgiveness in your health, your wealth, your love, and your happiness. All right. I will see everybody tomorrow. We're going to talk about the best way to counter any opposition tomorrow. And we're going to talk about the truth of your age. I have a very interesting perspective on age that I think is a little unique. And we'll talk about the way I feel about age. Just like a little insight on tomorrow's. We're going to talk a little bit about Alexander the Great. And Alexander the Great, at age 19, started his quest to expand his father's empire. And when he was 31 years old and he passed away, he had conquered, I think, the entirety of the known world at age 31. So we'll talk about that a little bit, his story and how to counter any opposition. All right, I'll see all you guys later. Thank you for joining.